welcome to the Bella Vista Radio Club's May 2021 virtual meeting. My name is Tom. My call sign is Whiskey 5 X-Ray November Alpha, W5XNA, and I am the current president of the Bella Vista Radio Club. Thanks for joining us this evening. There's still no timeline to resume meeting in person, but we are looking at possible locations. And if you have any suggestions on where we might be able to meet, please let me or one of the board members or any member actually know, and we'll scope it out. We're also sort of thinking about, well, if we don't have a building, maybe there's a place where we can meet outdoors while there are still some restrictions. We are doing our VE testing, and it's been very, very successful. And we're testing now at the Harps Foods corporate headquarters, which is located at 918 South Gutensohn Road in Springdale. And that's all thanks to Harps Food Stores and Ryan Wolf, KE0CZQ. And the next testing session is this Saturday, May 10th at 2 p.m. And we have had a really good turnout for these. And we would like, if possible, for you to let us know if you're coming or not. So if it's more than 10, then we can sort of schedule your time, and so you're not inconvenienced. And if you are planning to attend, please contact our VE coordinator, Don Cooper, at his call sign, KC7DC. That's Kilo Charlie 7 Delta Charlie at ARRL.net. That's ARRL.net. And we will get you set up. I know that we already have 11 candidates that have already expressed that they will be there this Saturday. Well, you can see from my t-shirt, we're getting ready for the ARRL Field Day, which is June 26th and 27th. And BVRC is already making plans to host a great field day. Keep watching our website for news and updates. Well, the Arkansas QSO Party is this Saturday, May 8th, and it runs from 9 in the morning till 9 in the evening, 12 hours. And it is a great time, I tell you. Last year set several records, 411 log entries received, in contrast to 189 entries from last year. 47 states represented 3 provinces in Canada and 9 DX stations. It's a really great time, and I can't say enough about it. And also I want to thank Don Banta, K5DB, who coordinated the Arkansas QSO Party for the last 20 plus years, and he's given it over to the Noise Blankers group, and I know they're going to do a great job, and they've already got a nice website going. So if you're interested more about the QSO Party and the rules and all that good stuff, go to arkqp.com, arkqp.com, and hope to hear you on the air. Let's see what else we have. Well, the results of the April 10th BVRC VE session, we had the following VEs on hand to administer the test. Don, Kilo Charlie 7 Delta Charlie, who is the BVRC VE testing coordinator, and V's Ryan, KE0, CZQ, Jesse, KG5, JYV, Vincent, K5VCA, and myself. And here are the results of the VE session. We had Andrew Bancroft, KI5, PJF, new technician, congratulations. John Skaggs, KI5, PJG, new technician. Bryce Nelson, KI5, PJH, new tech. Jonathan Wages, KI5, PNZ, new tech. Adam Clark, KI5, PJI, new technician. Ronald Kelling, KI5, ITO, upgraded from novice to technician. John Boyer, KG8, DMZ, upgraded to general, congratulations. And Daryl Johnson, Kilo India 5, November Delta Juliet, upgraded to amateur extra. So congratulations to everyone. Very successful VE session. We've been having many new techs join our hobby in the last few months. It's been pretty explosive. New members. I would love to welcome the following new members: Gregory Gass, WZ5, TAZ, John Skaggs, Kilo India 5, Papa Juliet Golf. Daryl Davis, no call sign yet, but he's working on getting his tech license. And that brings a total of membership to 143. And I want to thank everyone who has joined and has continued to be a member through these tough times, and it's really appreciated. Well, if you've noticed a little bit of shakiness on the videos, what I'm doing is I'm turning the camera on and off after a couple of minutes to make the video files not so long. So it makes it a little bit easier to get those over to Wayne Patton, and that's what's going on. And I pardon any interruption to that. I want to thank John Williams, K5 DBT. Thanks to his generosity in allowing BVRC to utilize his Skywarn repeaters, we've been able to continue with our Wednesday wide area net, which is at 9 o'clock local time, on the following repeaters. The Fayetteville repeater is 147.315, positive offset, tone of 97.4. Green Forest repeater, 145.310, negative offset, tone of 103.5. The Bentonville repeater, 146.865, negative offset, tone of 103.5. And the Huntsville repeater, 443.625, negative offset. No, I'm sorry, that's a positive offset, tone of 97.4. And that's all the announcements I have, and information on various events that are coming up. Well, this evening we will have another interesting and informative program. John Hansen, AB5UN, is making his second appearance at a BVRC virtual meeting. The last time, we got a glimpse into his storied life and career. However, an important part of his life was missing. You see, John was one of the founders and president of the Bella Vista Repeater Club, which is now the current Bella Vista Radio Club. John left me a folder full of documents pertaining to the Repeater Club. And I've been pouring through everything here, and it's been taking me a while. There's a lot of great information, names from the past, and I just thank John a lot for allowing us to have those. And I believe John previously gave Ron K5XK similar artifacts as well. So we've got a lot of history about the early days of the Bella Vista Radio Club. Well, John has recently moved to North Carolina to be with his daughter, and he will be greatly missed. It was an honor to have known him, and I am so glad we have this interview to share.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Kilo Golf 5, Mike Whiskey Golf, Rick, and I'm in the QTH of John R. Hansen, Alpha Bravo 5, Uniform November, and this is an archival recording that we're going to put in the archives of the Bella Vista Radio Club, because John here and his friends will tell you how they actually got together and started this club. So right off to you, John.
Very good. When we started, the name was the Bella Vista Repeater Club. And then, of course, the new club here now is Bella Vista Radio Club. That's the only difference. We started with about 50 to 60 people we found in the area. And, of course, now our club is 175. Some of the old members are still there. Very pleased to give you some of the background on my experience. I started ham radio in 1948. I was in Tachikawa, Japan. I couldn't afford $17 a minute telephone calls, and they told me that there was a ham station on the base, and I didn't really know what it was, but I went over there, and after a couple of months, I told them I could pass any test they had because I was an electrical engineer. And they put calls in to the United States and tried to get someplace close in northern Illinois and go on a phone patch to talk to my parents. I did that maybe once, twice a month with them. From Tachikawa, they put me on a boat in the Air Force from Yokohama, Japan, to Celle, Germany, actually Bremerhaven, Germany. 45 days later, I was in Bremerhaven setting up a ham radio station there, so I didn't have to pay high fees or call from Germany back to the United States.
Did they have like Elmer's back then? Can you attribute like one person to getting you involved in ham radio?
Yeah, the base guys were radio guys. I worked on a lot of military radio, so I understood military radio maintenance and things like that, yeah. But that was in 47, that's quite a few years ago. And being 91, my memory's a little slippery now. But anyway, I enjoyed the military. I don't want to down them, but after I enlisted, I just mentioned to you, Rick, here, that listed for 3 years, but they kept me outside the continental limits of the United States for 38 months. And I thought there was something wrong. When I found out about it, they extended me for another year, but forgot to tell me because they forgot where I was at in Germany. But I've enjoyed ham radio and started, had up in Illinois. I'm from northern Illinois and around Palos area. And my son, John Frank Hansen, he's also a ham radio, and he belongs to the Bella Vista Radio Club too. He's over 65 now, getting to be an old man, and he's running all over the country like my wife and I did for 3 years, finding out what United States is. And he's enjoying it, but I don't get to see or talk to him, but maybe once every 6 months. My daughter's in Grove, Oklahoma, and she's coming here once in a while, about every other week. And that's the only family I have. That's why I'm moving now from Bella Vista to North Carolina, Elizabeth City, North Carolina. Ham radio to me was, it was a takeoff from my military work. I was still working in radio, and they taught me there in Japan how to operate a radio and the procedures, the call signs, and where every place we had wires strung up on the base between the hangars, and they switched from one to the other is how they, rather than have a rotating beam, that's how they got around the world for all the guys on the base. And when they couldn't, well, they tried, but sometimes you can get through based on weather and atmospheric conditions. Sometimes you could get through and it's just perfect. Ham here in Bella Vista, it was a wonderful guys down here. It was in 1990 when we started the Bella Vista Repeater Club. And one of the fellows that worked with me, he's passed away now, was Bill Davidson. Bill and I worked very closely together in setting it up, and we set up we had no problem with the POA putting up a antenna, and two antennas, matter of fact, one transmit, one receive, on coax cable on the tower far east on Trafalgar Road. And I think the cable is still up there, but the antennas are flopped over up on top, but the whole station downstairs, we had a battery set and everything in the cabinet. The repeater was in the cabinet, and we got quite a large area here, and we got to three states around here, guys. The first part of the club were in those three states, and communicated. We had breakfast every Thursday morning at in Bentonville, where now it's the logistics centers there in Bentonville. But on the north end of the building, there was a restaurant where we all met there, and Sam Walton used to come in a lot of times and join in with our conversation because he was interested in flying, which I did a lot of, and also radio, and wonder what we were doing, what we were talking about. He, quite a man to be conversant with all of his background experience. But the guys all pitched in together when we wanted to pull the cable up. We found a fireman here in Bella Vista, volunteered to climb the tower out there and pull the two cables up to the top, one to the transmitting antenna, the other to the receiving antenna. And the receiving antenna was right up on the top of the water tower. The transmitting antenna was on the west side of the tower, which covered most of the area, about a 330, 340 degree area around that antenna. The tower itself and the tank blocked signals going to the east. But that didn't bother us. It wasn't only a few guys out there, but they still could pick us up, transmitting and receiving. The radio station, Bill was up in the years at that time, and I was about 60 years old, and I still climbed around and did a lot of my own work here, even climbing my tower, put up a Rome tower. It's still up in the north side of my house. It's up 40 feet from the ground level here, but I'm about 30 to 40 feet off the water level here at Lake Loch Lomond. So you add that to the 40 feet of a water tower, and I have a far-reaching area from this location. Used it quite a bit, but all the 10, 15, 20 meter beam I had up there, rotating beam, that's all taken down. Son's got that, got all my radio equipment. I had 3 transceivers down there, amplifiers, you name it, a little workshop that I worked on electrical stuff down there. but very enjoyable. We had very little problems with people here. A few guys decided when they were in the club here to put amplifiers on their 2-meter and go 100 watts, and they would blast everything around here. We finally caught them and says, you either stop it or you're not going to be a member of the club, and furthermore, we'll turn you into the FCC. There's a lot of people here who like to use the system, but with that kind of power, you're bringing up repeaters and everything all around this area. So we got that corrected, and from there on, we rarely ever had any problems with interference or people not abiding by the laws. For the first couple of years here, from 1990 until about 1993 or 94, myself and a few others was teaching ham radio to guys to get their first license, and then two of us took them into the general class, and a couple of us kept on going and got a few extra classes, and then that gave us more people enjoying amateur radio here in Bella Vista. We didn't have too many women on the air, but nowadays here we got quite a few in the Bella Vista Radio Club, and it's nice to hear a woman getting interested in amateur radio, because it's kind of a technical thing, but they're picking it up. I think when I talk to them and listen to them on the air, they're as good as any guy that's even an electrical engineer, what they're calling on. I'm very pleased to hear that kind of stuff. Now, the repeater club or radio club here, when I say radio club, I'm talking about current. Repeater club, I'm talking about what we organized here in 1990, and I kept going on that until about, maybe 10 years, but around 2000 or 2005. And then I started traveling again with my wife. She wanted to visit some of the places in Europe, and we used to go out and play golf in Bermuda a couple of times. I used to go down to the Yucatan Peninsula. She would like to go down there. So we did quite a bit of traveling. It took me away from my radio station. And some of that was when we were living in Illinois, but a lot of it was right down here, because in Bella Vista they had a travel club that we joined, and that kept us going about every 3 to 4 months on some kind of a trip. Then we started driving here. We've driven all the way from Portland, Maine, as an example, all the way down to Key West, Florida. And every time I could get in contact with a ham radio on my 2-meter set, I'd always have a book of all the frequencies and talk to people on 2 meters. And that's another big addition with the ham radio, to be able to talk to people while you're driving along the highway and in different repeater locations. That kept you busy, not only driving, but listening to various experiences and people enjoying amateur radio. And do
you remember what model rig you had in your car during those days?
Oh, yes. Right next to me here, I don't know if you can see it, but I have a 2-meter set here. I'm just holding the mic up right now. But I've got one here, and I got another 2-meter set in my garage. And that's how I communicate with the club members right around here in the Bella Vista Radio Club.
Is that the same one you took on your trips too?
No, this is a new one, and with my arthritic fingers, I can't set all the frequencies. I'm hoping Rick can get me on one frequency here, because there's buttons along the bottom here, and I can't hold one or two of them one time and turn and get the right PL tone on there. But I got 147, 255 on there now with the proper PL tone, and that's what we use here in Bella Vista. But that one works good, and the other one is my old 2-meter set. That one I have in my car, and while I'm on the road, I'll go mobile and talk to fellows while I'm driving. But if somebody calls me on the radio or telephone, I always pull off the road for safety first, and I haven't been in an accident yet with it. Those that don't want to follow the rules and be safe, they get in accidents, and that's why I'm still 91. I'm going to go to, I'm 101. So you got to follow the rules in order to be safe. But amateur radio, I've built a lot of my equipment from the company was in Benton Harbor, Rick. I'm trying to think of the name of it. But they used to put kits out for all kinds of things, and I used to like to build kits from this club or company in Benton Harbor, Michigan, and they knew I was an engineer working for AT&T, and they called me one day and they says, "We've developed a kit for a 25-inch color television set," and that was in the 60s. They did that, and they says, "We've got about 6 guys. We're going to give you the kit if you put it together and see how long it's going to take you. We're going to measure your time, how many hours you work on it." Well, my son was about 10 years old, and he was my parts man, and we had little cupcake trays all over a pool table with different parts in it, all numbered, and I was the guy that assembled it. And all I say is to my son, "Johnny, get me such and such a part," because I'm reading the print. He'd go and get me the part, and I'd put it into the module that I was working on. So one day, about a month later, I guess it was, we finished it, and called my wife and daughter down, and I said, "We're going to turn it on, but don't get near the pool table because it might blow up." So we turned it on, and who came on? My 25-inch color television. It was not in a cabinet, just in modules on the pool table. Perry Como. Who remembers Perry Como? Beautiful color television.
What year was that?
That was in about 1966 or 67, somewhere in there. And that worked, and we had that set for quite a few years after we put it in the cabinet and everything, and it worked very good. Nowadays, everything, and that was a tube set, by the way. That was all vacuum tubes. But now, of course, everything is transistors and diodes and things of that nature. And Bell has sent me to many schools, about 1.5 years, to different schools in Iowa State University and Cooperstown, New York, the Baseball Hall of Fame. They sent me up there for 3 months for transmission of data over telephone lines. It was something brand new in the 60s and 70s, and all the way up through the 80s. It was all brand new technology. But after I did that, they invested about 2 years, I think I mentioned, of education to me, and they kept me on a will call basis. When I was in New York for 3 years, they always said, "Call John if you get into a technical problem. He knows number 5 crossbar." It's a electromechanical switching system, as well as ESS, electronic switching system. And when they ran into a case of trouble that was causing problems in the telephone switching system, when I was in New York anyway, a colonel used to call me, and he had Autovon. He was responsible for the maintenance of Autovon. And he'd say, "Meet me over at the JFK airport at that time, and we're going on a mission." And I said, "Where to?" He said, "I'll tell you when we get there." And then I worked on the Federal Telecommunication System, and they're both very, very large. Autovon covered all over the world. FTS was a federal telephone. But Autovon was a system where the regular telephone has the rows of buttons, and the new telephone that Western Electric developed was A, B, C, D on the left-hand side of all those buttons. Now, if you were the president or joint chiefs of staff, you pressed an A, then dial 7 digits, and that call would go through. I don't care where it was in the world. If a circuit was busy, it'd knock it down, and that call would go through. That was emergency calls. And it worked perfectly, and I think it's still working today, but that was done with 4-wire number 4 crossbar systems. Now I think it's all electronic switching. But very, very interesting stuff to work on. Yeah, Rick?
How much of your experience at Bell Telephone transferred into your experiences with ham radio?
A considerable amount, because in some of the assignments Bell gave me, one was happened to be the ARTC Center. That's an ARTC is a communication center with all the aircraft in maybe a 4 or 5 state area. I had responsibilities for the maintenance in ARTC in Aurora, Illinois for a few years while I worked for Illinois Bell. And you had to have microwave, you had to have regular radio, you had to have a lot of knowledge on their type of switching. It was specially designed, developed system. And that experience that I had with radio and everything mixed in with telephone switching was ideal for the phone company. So I did special assignments for them. Enjoyed it very much. But then we did have radio telephone in the cars, some of the first ones. And I had one. I had an unmarked car, and I had my radio telephone in there because when they needed me right away. And the people that I had contact with, they either called my office or they said, no, call his radio phone. And they'd reach me that way, and we'd converse what the problem was. And if I could get away, I got away. And if it was a government project that AT&T was in charge of, I had to get away. I didn't have a choice. Just go to the nearest airport, meet somebody, go to another airport, meet the colonel, and from there on we'd go to a site that I wouldn't even know where it's at today. But it was interesting. So those two experiences married together, the telephone and ham radio, because a lot of my work was in radio communications and microwave.
That was definitely before the days of cell phones, wasn't it?
Yes. Oh yeah. It was. We had a private telephone system. It was for a certain area where you work, and you had a number for that area, and that's how they reached me when I was mobile.
You mentioned Bill Davidson was really instrumental in the early days of the Bella Vista Repeater Club. Do you remember any of the other guys' names that was started the club?
Be honest with you, Rick, I'd have to have the rosters that I gave the club, because my memory is a little short on what happened 30, 40 years ago. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Bill, I was very close to, and he lives maybe a mile from me, and somebody would call Bill and say, repeater's acting up, it's whatever the problem. Bill would tell me about it, and he'd also give me a clue on what to look for. I'd get my car and run over. It's about 8-9 miles away from my home here, and it was in a locked fence and everything from the POA, and they gave me keys for it, and to go in there, and they had some of their equipment in there, and I'd go to our cabinet. It was open, and fixed the problem, and the POA guy met me out there a couple of times, and he says, you got batteries? I said, yeah, just regular truck batteries, 12-volt truck batteries. He said, I'm having problems here with my batteries. I have to replace them about every year. I said, these are a couple of years old. They're working fine. And I looked at him. I says, I advise you to get them off that concrete floor. That's where your problem is. Just go get 2 new batteries, put them on a wooden stand, and connect them onto your set here. You'll never have battery problems, except for after 3 or 4 years they wear out. Mm-hmm. But he was amazed. He says, I never heard of that. I said, I did until somebody told me.
back in the early days of the club, what's the maximum number of members? Do you remember they might have had?
I don't know the exact, but the early days when we started, we found about 50 to 60, and it grew up to 75 in the years. But we taught people how to be ham hoppers, start them on the tech, and build them up from there. And there was about 3 or 4 of them, fellas there, that had their extra class like I did, and I think I got that in the late 80s, something like that. And I'll be honest with you, I flunked the code, and I shouldn't have. I passed the electrical end of it, but I flunked the code because I had code and everything in the service, but I hadn't used that in about 30 years, so I missed it. So went back again. I studied for a while, and I used cassette tapes. In fact, I got one set left downstairs, and it was the name of it was Music of the Code. I remember that, and it had a rhyme to it, and went through the whole alphabet. Just kept repeating itself like this. And riding a bicycle, which I did a lot in those years, I listened to it on my headset, and I could remember the code from that. And that's how I learned Morse code.
You may have heard part of the bane of almost every club in the country is eventually they get up to a certain size, and then some groups within there decide they're only interested in CW, some are only VHF, UHF, some only want to do DXing, that kind of stuff. Was any of that kind of stuff going on back then?
Not too much of it, not too much. That come, I would say, from around 2010 and on. Then things started to blossom out. It got a lot more complex, I might say, when you get into those kinds of technicalities. But today there's so much in it. I listen to it, I understand it, but I don't engage in it myself.
Like nowadays there's a lot of digital modes. And some of them are kind of hands-off kind of thing. Like for FT8 and FT4, you almost don't have to be in present while this is doing it. Your computer's making all the contacts.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that? So I'm sure they didn't have that kind of thing going on.
Didn't have anything. Just like it is today. What do people use, these salespeople, in order to call all these homes? Robocalling. I hate it. But I found a way to avoid it. And I sit and enjoy myself. When I get one of those, I'll pick up my phone here, the robocall comes in on. And getting my pension from AT&T, I try to talk to the people and hold them on the line as long as I can, because that's money in my pocket. They're paying for that call, and that's part of my pension.
You betcha.
Yeah.
You betcha. Well, we're definitely glad that you spent time with us here in the club here on it. Personally, I first met you at one of the Bella Vista Radio Club breakfasts, so here at Rosita's in Bella Vista, or just north of Bella Vista, and your memory is definitely very, very sharp. When I'm 91, I hope I'm as sharp as you, for sure. Okay, you're going to be going to South Carolina, living with your granddaughter. North Carolina, rather.
Yeah.
What do you think you might be pursuing there as far as radio?
I think I'm going to keep my 2 meter and just talk to local people, get to know North Carolina and up into Virginia, because I'm right close to Portsmouth from there. And there's a lot of ham radio guys there in the military, Navy it is, mainly Navy up there, and communicate with those people. And they can reach Elizabeth City, where I'll be living. That's only about, 40 miles away, 30, 40 miles from me.
Well, nowadays, if you get on the right repeater with your rig there, you can go thousands of miles. I know
Nowadays
accidentally from here, I've got up to Pennsylvania, New Jersey, places like that. So, but also, I'm thinking also of some of these repeaters have an Echolink node to it.
I've used Echolink,
And
my set here.
The Bella Vista Radio Club don't have it on their repeater yet, I don't think, but there's some of the other ones here that do. So we'll be pushing the boundaries, try to make contacts with you for us to be DX over there to Portsmouth, Fort North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. You had a very interesting life. I've been through your stuff here, which you're mainly moving elsewhere, but you could have set up a museum for sure.
Downstairs, I have a whole wall. I think, Rick, you saw all those. Let me kill this phone. It has to ring 4 times, but before they give up. And then I put a message on it. I don't know if you can hear it.
No, that's all right.
But I try to discourage. I says, if you're not using caller ID properly, and it comes up on my TV in front of me, it says wireless or toll-free call or something like that on there, I don't even bother with them.
Mm-hmm.
They're salespeople.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you think it might be making Bell Telephone some money.
That's different.
All right, John, it was great talking to you. Is there any final comments? A suggestion? How about some suggestions for the existing present-day membership and leadership at the Bella Vista Radio Club? What do you recommend to all of those folks?
I think each ham radio guy or gal today should encourage other young people in their teens, boys and girls, to get some kind of a hobby like that in ham radio, where they'll use it for the rest of their life and enjoy it. And there'll be a few will really stick with it for the rest of their life and become experts in all these different links that they have, Echolink, like we were just talking about. That wasn't available when I started here in Bella Vista, but it's greatly expanded, where the 2-meter systems, why you'd have a geographical area of 30, 40 miles. That's about the limit. But now with Echolink, you can go all the way across the United States with it. And I used to use Echolink to call them and talk to my son up in northern Illinois on Echolink. I'd rather use the radio than the telephone, even though I get a discount.
Okay, no problem. All right, thank you again, John, for letting us interview here. Safe travels to you. You're going to be moving pretty soon.
I appreciate that.
And I hope we get to see a few more breakfasts before you leave.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you very much.
We'll get that recording on there.
You're listening to that recording. That's my discouraging message.
There you go.
Well, we're back. I hope you found this presentation informative and enjoyable, and thanks for being a participant. My thanks to John for his contributions to amateur radio, especially in the Northwest Arkansas region. And we don't say goodbye, John. We say 73, and hope to catch you down the log. And my thanks to Rick Pope, Kilo Golf 5, Mike Whiskey Golf, for doing the video. Your comments, questions, and suggestions are welcomed and encouraged, and please address these to info@bellavista.radioclub.org. That's info@bellavista.radioclub.org. Also, for more information on the Bella Vista Radio Club, please visit our website at bellavista.radioclub.org. And we invite you to be a member of the largest amateur radio club in the Northwest Arkansas region. And please know that we exist to serve the amateur radio community, and that's you. 73, stay safe, healthy, and on the air. Good evening from W5XNA.